Hello, welcome to the 9th episode of Spring Core Framework tutorial series, and today we will be talking about Spring Bean lifecycle, one of the most important topic in Spring Core Framework. Again, I'm saying it. Yes, it is one of the most important topics, so do not skip it. This video is important. Okay, my name is Avilas. You're watching Selenium Express. Without wasting any time, let's get started. So guys, I hope you guys can see my screen here. Probably not, because I have not shared my screen yet. So let me share my screen and let me start the recording. And I hope you guys can see my screen right now. And right now I have a project here called Bean Lifecycle, and I'm going to use this particular project to write my code. Okay. Right now I'm going to use this particular project, and here I got a package already, com.seleniumexpress.beanlifecycle.annotation. and first I'm going to create a class here called student DAO. Why I'm writing a DAO class? Because I'm going to write some JDBC code. So why I'm going to write some JDBC code? Because I have not written JDBC code for a long time. And if somebody is going to call me and ask me about, hey, do you know this question on JDBC? Then I cannot answer it. And if I cannot answer it, then I lose my 40% of hike. Just joking. I'm going to use JDBC code over here to demonstrate the Bean lifecycle and the importance of Bean lifecycle method. So my intention is over here to create some real-time scenario so that you guys will be pretty much flexible, pretty much comfortable with this Bean lifecycle methods, right? So as I said, I'm going to write some JDBC code over here, and I'm going to walk you through a table right now. So I'm going to open the SQL server here, and I'm going to go to my home. So here I do have a schema here called ESNew. Inside this schema, I am going to use this particular table, right? And if I do a select rows, so you can see I do have this table called hostel student info, and inside this table I have a few columns here, right? Student ID, student name, hostel fee, food types. First, my intention is to fetch all the columns from this particular table. So I have to do some database operation. So I'm choosing JDBC over here, and it is really simple. I know you guys do not have any problem with writing JDBC code. So let me go to my Eclipse right now, and let me start writing code. Okay. Okay, so first of all, to create a JDBC connection, what are the properties that I need? Obviously, I'll be needing my username, password, URL, and driver, right? So let me define all those variables here. Private string. First I need a driver. So driver, then private string URL, and also I want private string username, most important. And then I need a private string password, right? So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually inject the value for all these things. Okay, let me hard code it for now, then I'm going to use Spring, right? Let me first write a simple JDBC program, then we can bring in Spring framework and we can inject all those things, right? For now, let me hard code the driver. My driver name is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. My URL, let me grab the URL from my DB here. So I'll do a right click, copy JDBC connection string to clipboard. I'll go to my Eclipse again. I'm going to put my URL over here. Okay. And apart from that, I want to delete this user part, and I want to provide my DB name, the schema name where my table is present. So I've already shown you here that I want to do my operation over a table which is present in this schema. So what is my schema name? ESNew. Inside this ESNew schema, I have a table. What is my table name? This is a table that I'm going to deal with, right? So first of all, let me write the schema name ESNew. So I'll go back to my Eclipse and let me write ESNew. So this is it. So this is, guys, this is my IP. If you want, you can change it back to your local host. That's also going to work. So nothing to get confused by looking at this. This is just my IP address, right? Okay, my username is root. Okay, and my password is OV. Okay, now using all these 4 things, I am going to do my DB operation. So as I said, first of all, I am going to write a method to select all rows. Okay, I can write a method like this, and the intention of this particular method will be fetching all the rows from my table, right? So as of now, I'm not using Spring Framework. I'm not using any single stub. I'm just writing a simple JDBC program to fetch all the row from a table, right? So first of all, before I fetch the row from the table, what I want to establish the connection with the DB. And for that, first of all, I need to load my drivers. So I can comment this out, load driver. So I can write class.forName. My class name will be this one. This is the driver that I want to use. And this driver is, MySQL driver. And this forName method is going to throw some exception. I'm going to add it to the method declaration. So this goes here. Once I load my driver, I'm using my MySQL database. So I've given MySQL driver. If you are using any other database, accordingly you provide the driver name. Okay. Once I load my driver, I'm going to get a connection. Okay. So to get a connection, I need to use driver manager class, driver manager.getConnection, and I need to provide the URL, the DB that I want to connect to, the username, and the password. So what is my URL? My URL is URL, username is username, and password is password. Okay, these are all the strings that I defined here. So command click, here it is defined, right? Now this get connection method is also going to throw some exception. So I'm going to add it to the throws. Okay, good. So right now my connection is established. Right now I can execute my query, right? Execute query. Now to execute the query, first of all, I want to create my statement. So con.create statement, and this create statement method is going to return me a statement, and I'm going to hold this statement object, statement java.sql. Make sure you are importing this one, right? Java.sql and stmt, the universal name, and then I'll write stmt dot create query or execute query, execute query, and here I'm going to pass my query that I'm going to run. So I want to get all the rows from my DB. So actually I want to run a select statement, and to run the select statement, so I'm going to copy this query, Control C, and I'm going to come back to my Eclipse, and here I'm going to paste it, and this query is going to give me a table, right? This query is going to give me a table back, just like this. So how to get all the row from the table? Obviously we need to iterate, right? So this particular query that I am running here, this is going to give me a result set back, right? Result set object, result set rs equal to, and let me minimize this so that you guys can see it in a full screen. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate through it. So I'll write while, and I'm going to do what? I'm going to, as long as I have data in rs, okay, as long as I do have data in this result set, this while loop should run, and in this while loop I'm going to get all the columns from this result set, right? So rs dot get int, first of all I'm going to run. Why I'm running the get int? So to explain you that, I hope you guys already know about this, but in case somebody is not knowing it, so I'm going to describe this table. so that I'm going to get the format. What is the data type of the student ID? What is the data type of this and this, right? So describe, my table name is this. Again, let me copy this, Control C and Control V it over here. And right now, let me do a command enter to run this query, and you can see this is the data type, right? Student ID is int type, student name is varchar type, hostel fee is double type, and food type is varchar. Okay, so this is string, this is string, this is int, this is double, right? So let me get this one for student ID. So this is int. So let me go back and let me do what? Column index 1, and this is my student ID. So let me write int student ID. Okay, so right now let me get rs dot, what is the next column? The next column was student name, and let's say get string method, pass the index number, which is 2 in my case, and here this is going to return me the student name. So I'll write string student name. Okay, and right now I'm going to print all these things. So to print out, I'll do sys out, and I'm going to write student ID plus student name, plus I need to give a space, and after the space I'll write student name. After student name, again I want to give a space, then I want to print hostel fees, and after that again I need to give a space, and again I need to print food type. Okay, great. So right now we have written a method, and if we call this particular method, we are going to get all the rows that we are having in our DB side. So to test this application, let me write a test class, right? Yet we are not dealing with the Spring framework. We are just writing simple JDBC code here. So here, first of all, I'm going to write a main method, right? Inside my main method, my job is to call the student DAO select all rows method, right? So what I can do, I can create a student DAO object. So student DAO equal to new student DAO. Okay, and I'll do DAO dot select all rows, and this particular method, if you see here, this throws some exception. So let me throw the same exception to the main method. Okay, so let me add it to the declaration. Okay, so right now I can run this particular method, and let's see our program is running or we're getting some error. Where are you, boy? Okay, we're getting java.lang.class not found exception because I have not added MySQL JDBC driver to my class path, right? So let me add it to my class path. Okay, we are just presetting our environment before we write the Spring program. So let me do all this thing first. Build path, configure build path, and I'll write add external jar. So I'm going to add first, I do have a MySQL connector here. Let me add the MySQL jar, and also I'm going to deal with Spring. So I'm going to add all the Spring framework jars as well. That's okay. Right now, let me run this again. And where is my console? Okay, good. So I'm getting all the data right now, right? So we are successfully written a JDBC program to fetch all the rows from the table, right? If you see in our workbench, if I go to, right, in my MySQL, I'm having all this one of the last 202 non-ways and all these records that I have over here. I'm getting it here in my console right now. Guys, this is not going to be a shortcut tutorial. I'm going to talk too much. So if you do not have much time, if you're going for an interview or something, you're trying to finding out, okay, what the bin lifecycle method does, just tell me straight away. Then this tutorial may take a long time for you to get into the things, right? So let me tell you that previously, right? Because I want to create some scenarios so that whenever you guys are working in real time, you guys should feel comfortable, because bin lifecycle methods are pretty much important, because I don't think any project is there where we are not using lifecycle methods or callback methods. So this is pretty important, so that's why I'm actually emphasizing. Okay, no problem. So I know you guys have time. If you are my viewers especially, I take a little long time to explain things. So right now what I want to do, actually I want to create another method. Okay, just I'll tell you why I'm creating all this method, but let me create another method, and this time my method should do what? Here I am actually fetching all the records from the database. Now tell me one method. I should write one method. Using that method I should delete a record from the database, right? So right now I want to write a delete method here as well, and my delete method job will be, it will help me to delete a record from the database, right? So how to write the delete method here? So again, let me write another public method. So public void delete record. Okay, let's say delete student record, so that it will sound more generic. And here let me delete a record. So to delete a record, first of all I need to do all the same thing, right? Let me copy till here, okay, and let me paste it over here. And once I am done with all these things, the next thing I want is run the delete query. To run the delete query, what I'll do, stmt dot execute, there is a method called probably execute update, yes, and here I'm going to write my delete query. So how to write a delete query? I hope you guys know about it. Delete from table name. What is my table name? Let me copy from here, Control C. Hey, what is the semicolon is doing here? It's not needed, right? And let me come here and let me paste my table name, where student ID is equal to, let's say 1 or 2 or 3, based on the ID that I'm going to provide. Based on the ID, actually it is going to delete the record. Let's not hard code it. Let the user decide what the row he is going to delete. So let me pass him the student ID. Let's say student ID. Tell me the ID that you want to delete, and plus I need to concatenate with student ID. That's done, right? And we can print out a message right now. Okay, so right now it's saying to throw all these things, declaration, and here also I can throw it to the declaration. Okay, so right now let's write a log statement. Let's say you wanted to delete this record, so it's deleted. Okay, and here also we can put a logger statement. Simple, right? Now let's test this delete student record. So how to test it? So right now again I'll need to come here. Let's say dow delete student record, and I want to, let's say I want to delete the record number 5. I want to delete this Probin record. So let me pass 5 here to my program. So let's say 5. Okay, and let me run this. Where is my console? Okay, now first it is fetching all the records, then it is saying okay, the record 5 is deleted. To confirm again, so what I'll do here, I'm going to run this select statement again here in my DB, and you can see the number 5 record is no more. So both of our methods are working. Okay, so right now we have successfully written these two methods, and congratulations, because you stick with me for this long, and thank you very much for that. Right now we can talk, right? We do not need to write all this logic right now. Right now we are going to introduce Spring framework, and we're going to understand okay how those callback method we need to introduce over here. Okay, how the bean lifecycle methods we need to introduce over here. Okay, so I have missed one thing over here. So if you see select all rows, right? I'm creating the connection here. I'm not closing it. Here also I'm creating the connection here, and I'm not closing it. This is just like, you are going to your locker, you are opening the locker door, you are getting your jewelry, and you are not closing it, right? Can you tell me why we need to close the connection? Why it is so important to close the connection? Why it is so recommended to create the database connection, right? If you're opening the database connection means you need to close it. And why? Can you give me an answer in the comment section? And whoever give me the best answer, I'm going to pin that out so that everybody who are going to watch this tutorial, they are going to see your answer. Now somebody, some of you might be thinking like, now you tell me the answer. You know what, when teacher doesn't know the answer, he can say, hey, you tell me the answer. I'm doing this just like that. Jokes apart, but you just try to give the answer in the comment section so that we will not waste more time on it. Okay, so now I need to close the connection. Once my tasks are done, I can write connection object dot close, right? And here also, once I'm done with my stuff in the delete method, I can also do con dot close, right? This is closing the connection, right? Super. Right now, okay, now let's introduce Spring. First of all, in the previous videos, might be in the video number 7, you know how to inject these things from a property file, right? Right now, I'm not going to use any property file here. I'm going to directly go to my bins.xml file. So I do have a bins.xml file over here. If I open this here, I'm going to define my bin, right? And let me, inside this bin and bin, let me give it an ID first. Let's say my ID name is student DAO, and let me give the class name. So class equal to, let me go here, let me copy the qualified name, let me come to my bins.xml file, and let me define where my class is defined in which package. And once I define that, and here I can set my property. Okay, so now let me say the property name one by one. So here the property is driver. Let me control C it. Let me go here. Let me control V it, and let me give the value for this property. What is the value for this? Let's not hardcode it over here. Rather, I'm going to take this particular value from here. I'll do control X, and I'll remove this part here, and I'll come over here to my bins.xml file. I'll put my value here, right? And similarly, I need to define all the properties. So let me speed up this video. Probably I'm going to speed up this video so that I can do this operation quickly. Alright guys, so right now you guys can see here I've written all my property here. I've given it the value, and I've also removed a few things over here, and also I'm going to remove this thing from here because I'm going to pass it from there, from my bins.xml file. So I'm going to remove all these things, right? So I'm setting it here in my bins.xml file, and in this time I am not going to create the object just like this over here. Rather, what I'm going to do it, I'm going to get it from the application context, right? So let me minimize it. Let me write application context equal to new class path application context. Let me provide my bins.xml file here, bins.xml, and here in my file, let me do context.getBin, and in my getBin method, first of all, let me provide the bin name. My bin name is what? My bin name is student DAO. Control C it, Control V it. So this is going to give my student DAO class object, right? Student DAO, we can write like this, and we can do student DAO dot, I can call my method, right? Select all rows. Okay, and let's try this out. Let me try this out, right? Now this should call me select all row method, right? If I do control click, it should call me this particular method. Now just tell me if I'm going to run this particular application, okay, this is going to run or not. I'm just going to test your knowledge here. So right now I've moved everything to beans.xml file. Here I'm creating my bean, and right now if I'm going to run this particular application, it is going to run or not. Let me run it, and I should get an exception. And let's see what the exception says. So error in setting properties value. So it is saying not writable property exception. It is not able to write the property. Why? Right? Why it is not going to write the property for me, driver? Why it is not able to inject the value for me? What is the problem there? So if you go over here, it is not able to inject the property for driver, URL, username and password. It is not able to inject these properties. The reason for that is pretty simple, because if you see over here, all these values are private and I am not creating setter for that. So let me create the getter and setter for all these things. So I'll do source, generate getters and setters, and I'll do what? I'll select all, and I'm going to select the getter and setter for all these things after the username, after the password, right? After here I want to insert all the things. So okay, here we go. So we got all the getter and setter right now. Okay, cool. So right now let me try again. If I go to my test.java here again, if I'm going to run this application, now you can see the things are working fine. So right now I'm getting my logger, retrieving all student data, and it is giving me all the student data, right? That's cool. So we are right now introducing Spring. But right now guys, if you see in this particular class, right, there are something that we are writing again and again. Can you figure this out? If you see this method and if you see this method, there are something that we are writing again and again. Every time we are writing it, and can we make it more generic? This is not something pretty good coding that we have done. This is doing our job, that's fine, but something which is pretty redundant over here, which is pretty, we're writing duplicate codes again and again here. Class.forName and connection that we're creating over here is common over here as well. We're doing the same thing here and here. And also for closing, we're closing it here and we're also closing it here. So creating connection and closing connection is a pretty common thing that we are doing in this application, right, in this particular class. So why don't you move this thing to a particular method, so that one time only you can define over there, so that you can make it more generic, right? Let's say I need to do 50 DV operation. I do not need to create my connection for 50 times, right? Why don't I move this particular code? If you see over here, right, class.forName and get connection method. This thing I can control exit, and why don't I move this to a different method? Let's say I'm going to create a generic method here, public void create student DV connection. I can create a method like this, and I can move my code to here, command V, and I'm going to format this method, command shift F. And I'm going to actually delete the things from here as well. I don't need it. I don't actually I want to make it more generic, right? So I'm removing those code over here also, and actually I'm defining this thing over here, so that this particular method is responsible to create a connection. Before I perform my DB operation, I want my connection to be created. So this particular connection creation method stuff that I'm doing, I'm putting it over here inside this particular method. Okay, and similarly what I can do is I can actually create another method, public void close. Let me define it here. Let me define it at last, right, so that it looks good. Let me maximize it. Let me write a method here, public void close connection. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm open it and close it, and this connection.close, I'm going to move it to here, Control V, and move this comment to here also, Control X, Control V, and from here also I'm going to remove the connection.close, because the closing stuff this particular method is going to do. Right now you can see this con is giving me error here and everywhere. Why the con is giving me error? Because we moved the con to this particular method, and this con become the local variable, and this particular methods are actually not able to find this con variable, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to define the connection object here in the beginning. So I'm going to take a, let's say, connection java.sql con here, and I'm going to initialize this connection over here. I'm going to remove this con from here, okay, so that if I do command click, I'm coming here, right? Here I'm actually defining my connection, right? This is my connection object. Here I'm defining my connection, right? Here I'm initializing my connection object. Simple. So right now it is giving me a few errors because I need to handle those exceptions in my declaration. So I can do like this, and also I can put my cursor here, and I can add this to the method declaration. Now it's gone. Now my class is ready. So what we basically did here, just tell me. We just did a very simple thing. Okay, this is also throwing me some exception. Let me add it to the throws. Okay. So what we are basically doing right now, we are actually creating one method which is going to create our connection, and one method which is going to close our connection. This is like, before I do any DB operation, I need to create my connection, do the operation, then close the method. Okay. And right now I'm going to run this particular program, and let's see the things are working fine or not. So I'm going to run this, and let's see in the console what I'm getting. And I'm getting a null pointer exception. And why I'm getting a null pointer exception? I'm getting a null pointer exception where, right? So let's debug it where actually I'm getting a null pointer exception. And what I'm going to do right now, let me debug this particular program. Right click, debug as Java application, right? So let me open the debug perspective, and right now let's see where my code is breaking. Right inside the select rows, let me give a breakpoint. So I did control click, and this is my select all rows method, and let me put a breakpoint here, and let me see where my things are failing. So let me go back to my tester Java, and let me do a F6, right? So it came into the select all row method. Now let's see what is happening. So if I do another F6, it is going to coming to this particular line, and here if I put my cursor, this con is null, right? So whenever I'm doing any operation, whenever I'm doing this create statement, this operation over this con object, this object is null, and probably this is going to give me the null pointer exception. So if I do F6 again, you can see where I'm going. I should be going into exception. See, I came into exception, right? If I do F6 again, I'm getting exception over here, right? Okay, so right now let's do an analysis for 2 minutes, and let's understand why still we're getting this null pointer exception. Guys, it's pretty simple. I know most of you already caught why we're getting that, right? So I just want to show you this thing. So guys, this method does what? Simply tell me in one line, what is the job of this particular method? Create student DB connection. This method just initialize my connection object, this con object, where I define this con object. My con object is defined here. The value of this con object is null, and I am initializing. If I do control K here I am initializing my connection object. My con variable get initialized over here, correct, in the line number 56. So whenever I am performing any operation here, or I am calling any utility methods, these methods are called utility methods. The delete student record, selecting all the records from the student, right? These methods, they are doing something, right? So we call it utility methods. So these methods are performing operation directly on our connection object or our con object. And if I am not calling this particular method, okay, then this con object value is null, because if I'll not call this particular method, obviously the con object will not be initialized, right? If it will not be initialized, the value of this con is what? If I'll do command K, you already seen, right? The value of this con is null. So that's actually the problem. So the solution for this particular problem is very simple. If I call this particular method create student DB connection here, okay, if I call my method here create student DB connection, then my problem is solved. If I go to test.java and if I run it, then you can see there will be no error over here, because Now that particular object got initialized, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I do control Z over here. Now why I don't want to do this? Because see guys, right now I have two methods, select all rows, right? What about if I call this particular method? Right now if I call this particular method again, it is going to throw me an exception because this con object is not getting initialized inside this. Again, I need to call that particular method over here. So think like if I have 50 operation, if I have 50 utility methods, right? Then 50 times I need to call this particular method, right? This particular method I need to call it over here, then again over here. So for any utility method that I'm going to write like this or this, so everywhere if I need some DB tasks to be done, then I have to call this particular method, okay, inside my utility methods. And I don't want to do this. Why I want to do that? Because I'm using Spring framework. I want my Spring framework to execute this particular method before I perform or before I call any utility method, just like this or any utility method that you are going to write. Before performing those methods, I need my connection object. So I'll tell my Spring framework, hey framework, do a favor for me. Once you create the bean, please execute this particular method, right? So the way I'm going to tell it to the framework is by putting the annotation called post construct. Once the object got constructed, please execute this particular method for me. Okay, let's not jump into that story right now. We'll be covering everything step by step. But right now, let's simply understand that if I'm putting the post construct annotation over here, is my problem is getting solved. So to check that, if I'll go to my test.java again, and if I'm going to run this particular application again, I'm damn sure I'm going to get the same exception once again in my console null pointer exception. So why I'm getting it? Why still I'm getting it? Let's dig into it. Okay, so we found that our problem is not yet solved. Still we're getting null pointer exception, right? So we have annotated this particular class as post construct annotation. I'll tell you why. I'm coming back to this particular point, but my intention was the framework should call this particular method automatically and it should initialize my con object so that I can use my con in the utility methods like delete, select all rows and all, right? But this is not actually happening. And why? I think you already figured it out. If I go to bins.xml file, I have not activated my annotation, right? So what I can do is I can write context annotation config. I can just end it over here. And right now, if I will go to the test.java class, and if I'll again run this, and if I'll open my console, let's see this time what is happening, and it's working, right? So you understand bin lifecycle. No, just joking. So right now I'll be explaining everything very clearly. I know most of you who are watching this, they are beginners, and I'll tell you the best practices. I'll tell you everything step by step. I'll not be rushing into things, but you understand bin lifecycle. I'll tell you how. So right now you can see this particular method create student DB connection. If I do command F, right? If I'll do forward, if I do backward, you can see I'm not finding that one. So this particular method is not, I'm not using anywhere. Am I using the method over here? Am I using the method over here? No. To create connection, I'm not using it. So framework is calling this particular method automatically, right? So just to confirm, I can put a log statement again here. Let's say sys out. Let's say creating connection for student DB. I can say something like this. Okay, if I'll be running it, see right now, creating connection for student DB. See where it is calling, right? Before it execute my select method, before that only this particular method is getting called. This particular method is getting called, correct? Correct? Now let's understand, okay? Let's understand step by step, what is the exact, flow, what is the exact process when our init method will be get called. So when I say init method, what does it mean, right? So init method is a standard name. So if you already worked with servlet, I hope you guys already know about init method. But if you go to real world application, guys, init method is the one you will find everywhere, right? So init is just a standard name, right? I can mark this name as init. Init. So what I can do right now, rather making this as my init method, what I'll do, I'll create a init method right now. I'll create a init method. Let's say public void init, right? I can name it at anything. I can say it my init. I can say my init. That's also fine. Let's say init method, right? And inside this init method, I'm going to move this annotation over here just to just to maintain a coding standard, right? So it's a good approach, right? I'm writing init method. So if any developer comes, if you search for init, he'll get this method, right? Then he'll understand, okay, this is what the init method. So inside the init method, I want to call this one, right? Right now I'll be doing the same thing. I have just calling this particular method over here, and obviously this particular method throws all this exception. I will add it to the declaration. So this is a very good architecture right now, right? Because I'm maintaining a standard, right? So right now I have created an init method over here. I did put the post construct annotation over my init method, and let me remove this sysout over here, and let me put a sysout here, right? Inside the init method, I can write inside the custom init method because I'm only creating it inside the custom init method. Okay, so right now let's go ahead again. Let me save this and let me go to my test.java. Let me run this again. Let me see my console, and everything is working fine. See, so inside the custom init method, first it is printing. That means my init method is getting called. Then it is calling my utility method. That's working good. Right now let's understand the complete flow. So guys, tell me, first of all, okay, so tell me when actually, where actually the beans are getting created. The beans are getting created inside your container. What is your container? Your container is application context, right? If you go to your test class, so here you are creating your container object, right? So inside your container, all the objects that you are creating will be get maintained by Spring Framework, right? So, the objects that Spring Framework maintains, we call it bean. So beans are actually inside the container. So here it is your container responsibility that will create the object and that will manage the object inside itself, right? So once the object got created, what is the next step? So once the object got created, the next step is the Spring Framework will inject all the dependency, right? For my class, for my bean, this is my bean. This is the object that I want Spring Framework to create and maintain the student DAO object inside the container. So what are the dependency I do have over here? These are my dependency, right? And this dependency, the next Spring target is, once it create the object for me, once it create the student DAO object for me, it is going to inject all the dependency for it. Like it will call the setter method of set driver, set URL, set username, set password. It is going to inject all the dependency, right? Once it inject all the dependency, then after my init method will be get called. So before it is going to handing over the object to me, it will make sure that it will call the init method. It will call the init method. You got it? Right now let's prove it. Okay, because I told you, don't believe me, right? Let's prove everything, right, that we discussed. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do, how to prove it. So this driver command K, this is get driver command K. So again I got my driver here. So I was just looking for set driver. Command K is going to help you for search where the driver is present, right? So otherwise you can do command O, you can use set driver, right? So this set driver will be used by Spring Framework to setting the dependency, right? We have already seen this, right? So what I'm going to see, I'm going to put a logger here, and I'll say setting driver dot. Okay, let me copy this, and again I'll go to set URL. So I just want to see this loggers are coming when what is the flow of execution, right? So what I want to do here right now, inside the set username setting, I can say setting username, and then I'll say setting password. So I put logger everywhere, and also here also I have a logger inside the custom init method, and this is okay. Here I can say sysout creating connection. Okay, good. Then here I already have a logger. That's good. So actually whenever we're setting property, it is going to internally call the setter method, right? And that's what we're going to prove over here right now. Right now I'm going to test.java again. I'm running my application. Let's see what is going to happen. Okay, super. First we understand. First it is going to create the object for student DAO. Okay. Once the student DAO objects got created, then it is going to set all the properties, right? Once it sets all the property, then it is going to call your init method. That's why you are writing here, if you go to init method, you can see you are writing post construct. Once your object got constructed, immediately after that, not immediately after that, there are some other things also happening. We'll be talking about that later. But once, for this tutorial, you understand, once the object got created, dependency got injected, then once the object got constructed, this init method will be called by the framework. Simple, right? So you can see here inside the console right now, immediately after this, the custom init method get called. The custom init method is calling the connection, create connection method. You can see the custom init method is calling this particular method. If I control click it, this is this method, and here we have a logger creating connection. So that's what we're getting over here. And after that, the utility method that we are calling over here, if you see here, the utility method we are calling, that is coming over here, right? This is doing its work. So you understand the life cycle, how it is going. First this, then init method, right? You understand this? If you understand this flow, there is nothing. You already got the bean life cycle. So I can, also print this sysout student DAO here. So this student DAO is this object, my student DAO object. See where it is coming, student DAO object here, right? So there is no confusion. The init method will be called just after all the property got set to your bean, right? Simple, right? Okay, so great. Okay, so guys, right now you understand why we're using init method, right? You understand why we're using init method. Like if whenever we need any setting up stuff, okay, before I call my utility method, if I want to do some task, some setup task, okay, like getting connection, or whenever you are working with web services, you want to do some, before you execute your utility method, you want to connect to the web service, right? You want to do some work, or whenever you are doing socket programming, at that time also you need to open the socket, or you need to do some pre-task, right? That task you can put it over here and annotate with post construct method. And there is another method, guys, right? This close method, right? This con.close also we need to do. This close method, why we're running? We're doing some cleanup stuff. First we did the startup stuff, then we're running our methods. Once the method running is completed, we'll make sure that we're cleaning off everything, right? For an example, this con object, right? The con object we have initialized somewhere, right? Control K again, okay? So inside somewhere where, okay, here we are initializing, right? Con object. So after our work is done, we'll make sure to close the connection, right? And that closing stuff we are doing over here inside this close connection method. So I'll write another method, okay, called destroy method. And the destroy method will do what? Whenever my bean will be removed from the container, at that time the destroy method will be called, and it will make sure whatever the cleaning stuff that you want to do, you can do that. For an example, first of all, if I can write, if I want to make it my destroy method, what I'll do, I'll write, before you destroy the object, right, run this method, right, pre-destroy is called, right. So what does it mean? Before this particular bean object, right, this particular bean is removed from your container, before it removed, make sure you call the destroy method, pre-destroy method, right. So what this destroy method will do, here we can put our cleanup stuff, here we can do our cleanup job, okay, just like I'm cleaning up the connection, I'm closing the connection, right. So the framework will call this particular method, close connection right now automatically, because I'm saying this is a destroy method for me, okay. So if So if I'll go to test.java, and if I'm going to run this application right now, check what is going to happen, and you see the destroy method is not getting called, right. So I can do what? I can put a sysout over here, let's say inside destroy method, okay. So I can come over here again and run this particular application and see what is happening. Okay, that particular logger is not coming here, right? Why? This is another point to understand. So see guys, right now we are working with a SE application or EE application. It's a web application or is a desktop application. Obviously there is nothing, we're not dealing with any URL, nothing, right? It's just a simple desktop application. So whenever you are working with a desktop application, the closing stuff we need to take care, right? If it is a web application, the closing stuff you don't need to take care. See here the context that we are creating this object, we are not closing it, right? So we need to explicitly close it over here, right? In your web application, you don't need to do it. Your framework will take care of that. But in a desktop application, you have to explicitly do context.close. But see, the close method is not coming, right? Because inside the application context, there is no close method defined. So what we can do is, inside the class path XML application context, there is a close method. So I can get the close method from this, right? So how to get, this is my subclass, right? This is my superclass. Context is my superclass object. So what concept that I'll apply over here to call the close method from this class? What I'll do? I'll downcast it, right? To downcast it, simply I'll write here where the close method is present. The close method is present inside this class. Control C, Control V, and I'll wrap it again with a brace here. Okay, and I'll do dot close. Cool. So right now if I'll run it, now see what will happen. Okay, inside destroy method. Now my object got destroyed because if you see, if I click here, student DAO, this particular method is executing, right? Now my framework will make sure that to call this particular method automatically before the bean is removed from the container. Here we are closing the container means what? We are removing the bean. We are removing this particular bean, right? That means this bean is created inside the container, okay? And when that particular bean will be removed from the container, when the container object itself is going to destroy, your bean is also going to destroy, right? We are going to remove the bean. And before we remove the bean, we'll make sure to do all our cleanup job by putting this particular annotation so that the framework will call this particular method, and any open connection is there, any open socket is there, it is going to close that close that for us, right? You understand that? Right now, let's follow the standard without making this close connection as pre-destroy method. What I'll do Control X, I'll create a new method here, Command V, and I'll say public void destroy. I can give it any name here, but I am giving here destroy, and I'm going to move this thing Control X to here, and this particular method is going to do my cleanup job, and at last I'm going to call this close connection method, right? So I'll do close connection. I'll call this method over here, okay? And I will throw the exception, whatever it is throwing, I'll throw over here, okay? So this is not mandatory. Might be your destroy method should not throw any exception, right? So take care of that. So if I run this right now, I can see no changes. Things are working fine. My destroy method is getting called. My init method is getting called. You got the concept? Init method, when it will be called, once the object got created, property got inserted, after that only init method will be get called, okay? Then your bean is ready to use, okay? Once your init method is get called, after that only you can use the bean. And just after you destroy your container, framework will make sure to call your destroy method, okay, to clean off everything. Oh, I think I'm making sense. All right. That sometime guys you cannot see in your real-time project, right? This annotation config, this tag might not be there. At that time, you know, if the tag might not be there, our init and destroy method will not be get called, right? If I'll run this, then those particular things will not be get called, and obviously I'm getting a null pointer exception, right? So might be there will be a bean just like this, and the class name will be, right now if you see, I do not have an annotation context config tag, I do not have over here, right? Right now I'll directly go here, and if I run this, let's see whether a program is executing or not. Now it's working fine. So why I'm telling you to see this one, what's the magic this is doing is, it is pretty simple. So this particular class is just activating these two annotation, right? These two annotation that we're using, post construct and pre-destroy and post construct. This is just activating these two annotation, right? But I'll be sticking to my previous approach, but this is the one thing that I want you also to remember, because you might see that in your code, you might be surprised why they're using it and how the things are working, because we do not have annotation config tag, right? So that's what, for that particular annotation, we have this particular class. If we initialize this particular class, it will activate that two annotation. We can understand it just like this, right? Okay, so this is one way of doing things, and this is called your annotation approach, right? Guys, tell me one thing. Are you getting confused by looking into this line? Why I'm doing the downcasting? Okay, I have a simple solution for you. I'll control C it. I'll do this way. Class path application context equal to new class path application context. And here I'll directly say context.close, because the context is directly coming from this particular class, right? Got this? Now it's fine. Okay. And I just have a curiosity that if you guys are not getting why I did that, right? This is just, I'm just closing the container, nothing else, right? Okay. So now we'll talk about the XML approach, right? This is one of the another pretty standard approach to do the things, right? We'll see the XML approach. It is pretty simple. The same thing we're going to do. We're just going to remove our post construct. We'll comment this out and comment the pre-destroy also. Okay, we're not going to use annotation. If we're not going to use annotation, how we are going to achieve this? If we're going to run this, obviously the things are going to fail, right? You know about it. Okay, so right now, how to do it in a XML way? Let's understand it right now. Where I am defining this particular bean for student DAO, right? So I'll go for the beans.xml file, and here I'll search for the student DAO bean. This is my bean, and here only I'll define the init method. And what is my init method name? My init method name is what? Command O. This is going to show me all the method, and init I'll type, and this is my init method. I'll just going to control C it, and I'll go over here and command V it. And also I'm going to give here destroy method, and my destroy method is what? I'll go to again student DAO, command O, destroy. I'm doing this because I don't trust my spelling. And I'll go over here and I'll put my destroy method over here. Right now that's it. Okay, you are done, you are good to go. Now if I'll go to my test.java class, and if I'm going to run my application, I should get all the expected result. You can see the inside the destroy method is also getting called, inside the init method is getting called, and you know when the init method will get called, right? So once the property are set, right now you can see the init method are getting called. Good. You know the XML approach right now. It's pretty simple, right? Okay, guys, I'll tell you one more thing. So this, I'm doing context.close, guys, right? I told you, right, in Java AC application, we have to close our context manually by ourselves, right? Few people also do it in this way. They'll do what? Command S, they'll do context dot. They'll actually acquire a hook. So that's called registerShutdownHook. Okay. Actually, this registerShutdownHook is going to
do the same work as close only, right? So there is no big difference between this method and this method. So thing is that this is one of the alternative for this close method, right? So if I'm going to run this one, you can see there is not much differences between that. You can see our inside destroy method is also getting called over here. But one thing I'll show you over here. I'll comment this out, okay, and I'll activate the close. That's fine, right? I'm closing my context over here. I'll run it. If you see, this is running fine. Right now, again I'll do what? I'll try to do what? I'll control C it. I'll again try to, let's say student DAO 1. Now actually here I'm trying to get the student DAO object again with a different variable I'm storing. I'll try to acquire the student DAO object again over here. But see, the close method is over here. After the close method only I'm trying to again acquiring the bean from this particular object, right? And I'm storing it over here. And if I'm going to run this right now, what will happen? You are absolutely correct. We are going to get a exception because we have already closed the context, right? So how can we get it, how can we accept that we are going to get the bean back from our container? Because we closed the container. That's what is saying bean factory is not initialized or already closed. Okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you because if you try this, you might get surprised. I'll remove this. This is also do what? This is also going to close my context object, right? Right now, here I'm trying to do the same thing again. Okay, I'm going to run this and see what is happening here. And this time, I'm not getting an exception. Okay, so the job of this and job of this is same, but this is going to do what, right? This is going to do what? This is going to actually, is make sure that once your main method is end, right, it is going to call the registerShutdownHook method to close the container, right? So that's what you can see. You are not getting any exception, right? Few people do it in this way, guys. You can see it in your application. If you're going to any live application you go through, might be you can see things like this: abstract application context, control space to import this, and this good. Okay, so this abstract application context is actually implementing the application context interface, right? So this is also possible. You can do abstract application context equal to new class path XML application context. This is also possible. So somewhere people also create objects just like this, right? Don't get freaked out that okay, I don't know about it. This is nothing. This is just the same thing, right? This is the super class of this, and this class is implementing that particular interface, application context interface. Easy, right? Good. So if I'll go to my bins.xml file, so guys, instead of defining my init method and destroy method here, I also can define the init method and destroy method here inside this bin stack. That will do what? Think like if I have 100 classes. In my 100 classes, I have the same init method and destroy method. I want to call the init method and destroy method for my 100 bins. So if I'll create 100 bins just like this one, again I'll create a bin over here, again 100 times I'll create. Then 100 times I need to define this init method and destroy method here, right? So instead of that, what I can do, I can directly do it over here. Inside here only I can define. Okay, so I'll show you an example. So I'll create another class here. Let's say my class name is hello. Okay, so here inside this hello, let's say public void init, and inside this init method, what I can do is I can do sysout inside hello class init method. Okay, and I can also have a destroy method, command C, and I'll put it here, command V, and I'll change it to destroy. All right, and here I can say inside hello class destroy method. Okay, and inside the bins.xml file, what I'll do over here right now, I'll again create the bin for my hello class, right? So I'll do what? Bin here again. I'll give it an ID called, let's say, hello, and my class name I'll be getting it from here. Right click, copy qualified name. I'll come to bins.xml file. I'll do control V, and here also I need to define my bin, right? My bin is defined here, right? I can also define my init method and destroy method here, right? If I want to call them, control C, and I'll do the same thing, control V, control S. My init method name is init, destroy method name is destroy inside the hello class, right? So right now, see, the same method again, I'm putting init method here and destroy method here. So if I'm going to go to my test.java, and here if I will get my hello class object, see what is happening, command C, and after this one, I'll do what? Command V, and I'll write here hello, because my bin name is hello, and I want to get the bin for hello class. So I'll write hello.class, right? And I'll make it hello as well. Let me make it hello class. Now the error is gone, right? So here I'm actually getting the hello class object. Right now, if I'll run this application, you can see here it should be called inside custom init method. You can see inside hello class init method, right? That is fine. And again, inside hello class destroy method, inside destroy method. That's fine. Right now, I do have a common solution for this kind of thing. I do not have to explicitly define this particular things again and again. So I can do what? I can actually remove this thing from here and remove this thing from here, and I will define this inside this bin and bin over here. I'll say default init method. Init method is init, and I'll define the default destroy method is destroy, right? So that I do not have to write the same method for here. I do not have to define it for here, right? The framework now, the default init method name is init, and the default destroy method name is destroy. So now the benefit of keeping the same name is this, right? Whenever you will work in a project, your architecture will be just like that. Your architect will define what should be my init method name, and that particular name will be maintained across your application. All the developers should maintain the same approach, right? If I'm giving init method name init means, and another developer will also give the init method name as init only, right? So this is the way we can define. I have removed my init method from here. So what I can do here right now, I can come here. If I run this application, you can see my hello class destroy method is getting called, and my DAO class destroy method is getting called. And here also you can see the init method is getting called for the DAO class, and here it is get called for the hello class.
So the other way to handle the bean lifecycle is implementing an interface, right? I can implement an interface called Iinitializingbean, probably this is the one. And if I'll do click here and I'll do add unimplemented method, it should implement a method. It should override a method called after property set. This is gonna be your init method, right? This is gonna be your init method. So let me comment this thing. So this is gonna be your init method. I can write your sysout inside after property set method. So this is your init method, right? Let's say init method. After property set, fill the name. After you set the property, then this particular method will be get executed. Okay, and like that, I have another method for the for the destroy method. For that, I need to implement another interface called disposablebean. DIS. Let me hit. Yes, this is the one. And this particular interface also has one particular method called probably destroy method. Okay, this is your destroy method. Let me copy this. Command C, Command V inside destroy method. Okay, so destroy. Cool. So right now you do not need any annotation. You do not need any XML file. This is only going to take care of that thing, right? So if I'm going to beans.xml file, so for a moment, let me comment this particular code. Okay, let me comment this particular bean, Command X, Command V here. Okay, let me comment this out, and let's not give any init or destroy method here. Command S to save, right? I'm just defining my bean here. It does not have a init method, does not have a destroy method defined over here. So I'm just dealing with the hello class, right? I've overridden these two methods of initializingbean and disposablebean and given my implementation. Okay, here I can have another method, public void sample. Sysout my coding starts from here and ends here. Just printing something. Okay, now if I'll go to my test.java, if I'm going to run this application, okay, it is going to give me a exception because I need to comment this thing out because I'm not using this. Okay, I'm only dealing with hello one. Okay, and I can do right now, I can call the hello class method that I've defined, hello dot sample. Okay, right now I'll be calling the sample method. So first my init method should be called, then the sample method should be called, then I'm closing the context, so my destroy method should call. Let me run it. Let me see whether it is happening or not. Cool. Inside the after property set is init. Then my coding starts here and end here. Then I'm getting my destroy method here whenever I'm closing the context object. These are the three ways. Hopefully you have mastered it, right? Now you know when to use, what to use, and why we have to use the callback method. What is the need of that? So this is what I'm going to tell you. I think I have bored you enough, but I want to provide you all the information in one shot, and you got the thing why we use all these things, what is the need of all these things, and bean lifecycle comes really handy in your real-time application. So I'll definitely encourage you to try this example, and also I'll definitely encourage you to debug this example also so that you can see the flow, how the things are going. Okay, so in the next video we'll be talking about bean scope. Bean scope is also one of the most important topic for the interview purpose because they'll ask you those questions, I know. So we'll be talking about that thing. That's probably one of the last important stuff that is pending for this particular course, and then there are some small stuff are remaining which are going to become handy whenever you are going to work in a live project. So I'll be telling you those things also, and after that we'll be wrapping this course and we'll be starting with Spring MVC. So thank you very much guys for watching this, and hopefully you'll have a great day. Don't forget me to write a mail if you have any doubt, or ping me in Facebook/Selenium Express, and I'll try to resolve your issue as soon as I can. Thank you very much guys, and happy coding. Bye bye and take care.